The Aston Martin DB5 is the most iconic movie car ever made, but Ian Fleming never put Bond behind the wheel of one. He drove a Bentley. The first 007 film used a Sunbeam Alpine because it happened to be available. When producers finally approached Aston Martin for Goldfinger, the company refused. Borrowed, nearly abandoned, and almost permanently replaced by BMW. This is the story of how an accident became an icon. Ian Fleming never pictured James Bond as the driver of a futuristic, gadget-packed supercar. In the pages of Casino Royale, published in 1953, Bond's personal vehicle is a 1930 Bentley 4.5-liter, heavy, powerful, and unmistakably British. Fleming described it as a vintage motor car that could still turn heads in Monte Carlo, a choice reflecting his own tastes more than any marketing plan. The Bentley returns in several early novels, always as a symbol of old-world elegance rather than high-tech bravado. Bentley stands for that old-world image. When Eon Productions set out to bring Bond to the screen a decade later, Fleming's vision ran headlong into the practicalities of filmmaking. Dr. No, the first film, was shot on location in Jamaica in 1962. The production team needed a car for Bond, something that could handle the island's narrow, twisting roads and survive the rigors of a chase. There was no Bentley in sight, and no Aston Martin either. Instead, they settled on a Sunbeam Alpine Series 2, rented from a local dealer in Kingston. The Alpine's compact size and bright paint made it a practical choice, not a statement of luxury or power. Production call sheets list 2 Sunbeams on set, each swapped in and out for stunts and continuity. There were no gadgets, no bulletproof panels, no secret compartments. Bond's Sunbeam was just a car chosen because it was available, not because it was iconic. The decision was so unremarkable that the studio did not even bother to approach the manufacturer for a sponsorship deal. In the finished film, the Alpine slips through the Jamaican countryside, chased by villains in a hearse, but there is nothing about it that hints at the high-tech legacy to come. This early improvisation set the tone for Bond's cinematic garage. Practicality, not prestige, shaped the first on-screen choices. Fleming's Bentley remained on the page while the Sunbeam Alpine became Bond's first ride out of necessity. The disconnect between the literary Bond and his cinematic counterpart was clear from the start. A British spy in a borrowed car, with no hint that his future would be defined by horsepower, gadgets, and global branding. The search for a more memorable set of wheels was only just beginning. Albert R. Broccoli's first call to Aston Martin in 1964 was met with hesitation. David Brown, the company's owner, worried about handing over a brand new DB5 to a film crew known for wrecking cars. The DB5 cost £4,500, a fortune for the time, and Brown's initial answer was no. Broccoli persisted. He promised insurance, safe handling, and a return in perfect condition. Only then did Aston Martin agree to a loan, not a sale, and only for 2 cars. There was nothing glamorous about the deal, just a nervous handshake and a strict contract. Once the cars arrived, the transformation began. John Steers, the special effects wizard, was given a blank slate and a tight deadline. His team worked in secrecy, bolting on gadgets that would become the stuff of legend, including a spring-loaded ejector seat, twin machine guns hidden behind the front indicators, a bulletproof rear shield, and a rotating license plate that could switch identities in seconds. The oil slick dispenser and smokescreen were built as external rigs, designed to be attached and removed as needed for each shot. Every gadget had to look real, even if most were only functional for a few seconds at a time. The DB5 silver paint was another compromise. Aston Martin insisted on their classic racing green, but the filmmakers wanted something that would pop under studio lights. After several test reels, they settled on a metallic silver birch, a choice that would define the car's on-screen persona for decades. Each modification was documented in engineering notes and production logs. with Aston Martin technicians hovering nearby to make sure nothing permanent happened to their prized machines. When Goldfinger premiered, the DB5 wasn't just a car, it was a sensation. The gadgets, the look, and the aura of danger rewrote the rules for movie vehicles. What started as a reluctant loan became an accidental masterstroke, turning a borrowed car into the most recognizable automotive icon in film. The DB5's overnight fame caught both Aston Martin and Eon Productions off guard, setting a new standard for product placement and franchise branding. In the years that followed, automakers would scramble to capture even a fraction of that magic, but nothing else would ever feel quite as effortless or as accidental as the original deal that almost did not happen. Automakers once saw film appearances as a gamble, not a goldmine. That changed overnight with Goldfinger. The Aston Martin DB5's brief time on screen sparked a frenzy that no one predicted. Not Eon Productions, not Aston Martin, and certainly not the car industry. Trade journals from late 1964 tracked a measurable spike in DB5 orders. Aston Martin's annual sales more than doubled in the 2 years after the film's release, rising from around 200 cars in 1964 to over 550 by 1966. The car's gadget-laden image was splashed across magazine covers and TV spots worldwide, transforming a cautious loan into a marketing windfall. Studio executives took notice. Internal memos from United Artists, preserved in trade archives, show producers dissecting the DB5's impact and strategizing how to turn screen time into a recurring revenue stream. The days when a car simply filled a practical need were over. Product placement became a deliberate negotiation, with automakers and studios haggling over everything from camera angles to the number of minutes a car would appear. By the late 1960s, trade press like Autocar and The Motor reported on a new era of placement deals where the right car in the right film could equate to millions in free advertising. It wasn't just British brands chasing Bond's magic. Ford, Toyota, and Lotus all entered the fray, eager to see their models featured in the next big chase. The stakes kept rising. By the 1980s, car companies were offering not just vehicles, but full logistical support, technical advisors, and even cash to secure a coveted Bond cameo. The DB5's accidental stardom had rewritten the rules. Screen time became a battleground for global marketing, and every Bond film became an advertising platform watched by millions. This new logic, where creative decisions bent to commercial opportunity, set the template for the franchise's most controversial partnerships. The era of the BMW contract would take these lessons to their extreme, turning Bond's garage into a showroom and transforming the character's image in ways that still divide fans and critics today. BMW's arrival in Bond's world was never subtle. In 1995, a multi-million-dollar contract handed the keys to the franchise over to Munich for 3 consecutive films. The Z3 Roadster debuted in GoldenEye, its sleek lines and German engineering a jarring sight for fans accustomed to British steel. Tomorrow Never Dies doubled down with the 750iL, a luxury sedan piloted by remote control, and The World Is Not Enough brought the Z8, a limited-run roadster, each car stamped with a 007 badge. On paper, it was a coupe. BMW's models were showcased to an audience of hundreds of millions, and the films reaped $45 million in sponsorship and promotional tie-ins, but the backlash was immediate. Critics derided the new cars as extended commercials, and fan mail poured in, accusing the franchise of trading Bond's soul for product placement. Top Gear called the Z3 a misfit, while British GQ described the Z8's appearance as more marketing than movie making. The gadgets felt perfunctory, the cars themselves never quite at home. For the first time, Bond's ride was accused of undermining his identity, not reinforcing it. Behind the scenes, the tension was just as sharp. BMW's contract included strict clauses about screen time and model exclusivity, limiting the filmmaker's creative freedom. The DB5 still appeared for nostalgia's sake, but the heart of Bond's garage belonged to Bavaria. Box office numbers for The World Is Not Enough dipped, and studio notes linked audience fatigue to the overt branding on screen. By 2002, the pendulum swung back. Die, Another Day reintroduced Aston Martin with the Vanquish, a car that oozed British prestige and, crucially, felt like Bond again. The Daniel Craig era doubled down. Casino Royale's DBS, a muscular grand tourer, and Spectre's DB10, a car built exclusively for the film, signaled a return to bespoke craftsmanship. Only 10 DB10s were ever made, none for public sale. A reminder that Bond's car was once again a character, not a commodity. The irony is inescapable. The car, now seen as Bond's birthright, was once a reluctant loan, nearly replaced, briefly abandoned, and only reclaimed after a detour through German engineering. The DB5's legend was never planned. It was forged through improvisation, backlash, and a series of deals that could easily have gone another way. In the end, the most iconic partnership in movie history rests on little more than a borrowed car and a twist of fate. Bond's image behind the wheel of an Aston Martin feels inevitable, but it is a legend built on chance, compromise, and corporate deals. Today, product placement shapes blockbuster heroes more than ever. The next icon may be an accident too. Sometimes legacy is just a well-timed coincidence. What do you think?